A new year and a new bankroll. Let's start 2023 off right. We're going to cap the card at Santa Anita for Saturday, January 7th. Salutations and welcome, friends. My name is Matthew Desantis. You can find me on Twitter at the handle at Fail to Menace. And this is another episode of Capping the Card, which is proudly part of the Trust the Profits YouTube page. Make sure to like the video. Make sure to provide your comments about who you like on Saturday at Santa Anita. And as always, make sure to subscribe to Trust the Profits on YouTube. We got a lot of great content out there, not just Capping the Card, but a weekly win play show. One of my programs where I go over horse racing news, race recaps. Colin Sheehan giving out a lot of information on the Derby winners. He also has a Doubling Down podcast and show. And then El Hombre giving out his Thursday night fun time at the lounge, sometimes Charlestown, sometimes Delta Town, sometimes Turfway, always playing those late evening cards out there. So a lot of different content for you to check out on the Trust the Profits channel. But today we are going to be capping the card at Santa Anita on Saturday, January 7th. And here to join me is a good friend of mine and someone who I think is a really outstanding handicapper, and that is one Josh Rodriguez from On the Wrong Lead. You got to check out Josh on Twitter and also make sure to follow those guys at On the Wrong Lead. He, Mark, and Caleb do an outstanding job. So, Josh, thank you for joining me. And what are your thoughts here as we start 2023 and maybe some of your thoughts about this card overall at Santa Anita on Saturday?
Well, I have to thank you for obviously having me on the show. It's great not to have to do all the stuff you just did, because that's what I normally do. And sometimes we've been doing it for a couple of years. On the Wrong Lead. I've been going back and forth to doing a podcast, but we've been doing the live stream stuff. But I swear, every time I do a podcast intro, I don't know what it is. It's like all of the nerves in the world come over me, and it's like I forget what to say. And if you go and just like listen to any of the stuff I've done with Andrew Champagne the past couple of weeks, like just watch the first minute. Just watch the first minute and just watch me just like stumble because I have no idea what to say. You did it perfect. I'm inspired now. That's going to be my 2023 resolution. No. If the start of this year has taught me anything, it's that I have not bet enough Parks and Santa Anita.
Okay.
So because apparently that somehow this heater is starting up again, and I did really well at Santa Anita on their special Monday card, and here at Parks, I didn't hit the pick 5, but I hit a couple nice doubles. So
nice.
I will probably not play Parks again for a year, and just forget it, put that in the back of my mind, unless it's for a contest or like we were talking earlier, stable duel. But yeah, I thought the Santa Anita card was very, very interesting. I think there are a couple of decisions you have to make in the early pick 5 and the early races, where there's a lot of short prices. And you kind of gotta make your decision. Are you gonna take a stand with one of them? Are you gonna take a stand against? And I think later on in the card, we get into a couple of prices. And one, I know that both you and I are on. So obviously that morning line's probably bad, and it's going to be 7-2, and we're going to just extol the virtues of value and realize that horse is going to go off as like the third choice. But it's a fun card.
Yeah, it is. It is a fun card. And, we're excited about this. Obviously, there's been a lot of rain out in Southern California, but the good news is that rain has seemed to stop. Friday is going to be clear and cool out there. Saturday just as overcast, but cool as well. So turf conditions should be okay by then. Might just be a good turf, might not be firm. But, like I said, that weather issue should not be as much of an issue because they've had to cancel days out there early on this season. But yeah, you're right. That this is, I think you're right about taking a stand, those early races, and let's just dive straight into it. And so let's go to race 1. And Josh, you are the guest, so I will let you kick things off first. And you kind of singled up on, we both like the same horse up top, but talk a little bit about why you feel so confident in the number 2, Big City Lights.
Yeah, I think I think this race kind of starts and stops with your two favorites, the two Big City Lights at 8-5, and then you also have the Chosen Vron at 4-5. I believe the Chosen Vron was cross entered into another race here, but it
Yeah,
looks like he's
is
scratched
okay.
out to run here.
Okay.
If I remember correctly, I think I just checked the updated PPs, but yeah, and you know when you run into a race like this where you have two very short prices, and I'll say short prices as sub 5-2, right? So if you got two horses that are 2-1, um, it's kind of I feel like it's the first place where you got to kind of decide, you got to make a stand, right? You use one of them, you try not to use both of them. I mean, there's always exceptions to this where maybe you got four bombs in the rest of the card, and you're like, okay, well, I just want to get through this leg.
Yeah.
But it's very few and far between, right? It's one of those exception, not the rule. So in this case, I thought the 2 was going to be the slightly longer price, which it ended up being.
Hmm.
And I just think this horse is lightly raced. I still think that we haven't seen the best out of this horse. Is 4. And it gets JJ Hernandez aboard. He's
Yep.
has ridden this horse the entire time. And I'm just going to kind of take a shot with this. The Chosen Vron is a very, very nice horse. I don't know if they've decided yet if they're just going to keep running it on dirt or running it on turf. I mean,
Hmm.
had that nice win, 2 back, going down the hill. But it has rolled off 3 wins, so you have to respect the horse.
Hmm.
But kind of going back to some of the some of the back races. I don't know. I'm kind of just taking the up and comer here.
Yeah.
I think the 2 Big City Lights here is going to be able to run is just as fast as
Hmm.
a Chosen Vron, and you're just going to get just a slightly better price on it. If someone came up to me and said they're going to single the Chosen Vron, I would be like, hey, if that's how you feel, like, I can see it. I'm not
Yeah.
going to be here shocked when I'm knocked out of the early pick 5 after singling the 2 and the Chosen
Sure.
Vron wins. But yeah, I think it's just a place you got to make a stand.
Yeah, I agree with you. I always will side with kind of an up and coming horse. In this case, Big City Lights is that sort of horse that just has continually improved every single time out. Really, to started career with a huge number of 93 buyers the first time out, and that was actually last year. Ran 2 times, then took almost a little over a full year off. Then has come back with a win in 2 seconds in state restricted stakes races. But those buyer speed figures have gone up every single time. The Chosen Vron is, we should mention, is 4-5 on the morning line. So you're getting less than even odds on this horse from a morning line standpoint. And my concern there is the Chosen Vron's last race posted a 102 buyer. I wonder if there's a little bit of a bounce from that effort. And I think that the 2 Big City Lights could still improve. So I also looked at this from a standpoint of a vertical play. If you're looking to maybe pair up the 2 with another horse from a standpoint of value, try to maybe hit an exacta, try to maybe find a horse underneath that's going to provide a little something. I'm really interested in the horse Resilient. This is actually a horse that beat 2 horses that we like later on in the card for a little bit of a price. I know Cash Flow and Bang for Your Buck. So this is a nice horse that hasn't really done anything wrong. This is a horse absolutely is stepping up in class, but draws the outside post, should get a nice trip, and it should set a nice stalking trip in all likelihood. So this is a horse that's 3 for 4 in its career winning. Only time it didn't win came in second at 5.5 furlongs. I think the 6 furlongs is fine here. Brian Corner, a good trainer out there, gets Diego Herrera up on the mount. You're getting 15-1 on the morning line for this horse. I think there's something interesting there in Resilient. Like I said, maybe a play underneath, but Josh and I both like the number 2 Big City Lights in race 1. Let's go to race 2, which is a $67,000 maiden special weight, which is 6 furlongs on the turf. And this is for those newly turned 3-year-olds. And this is, again, a state restricted race. All of these races today on Saturday are going to be state restricted. And for me, my top play is the number 6, who I know you also like a bit, Regulation Dazed at 4-1 on the morning line. This is a horse that is getting the kitchen sink thrown at him. And that's my type of horse to play in a maiden race, getting the blinkers put on, gelded, getting Lasix for the first time. But this horse actually showed, I think, a fair amount of ability going 6 furlongs on the turf, 2 back in a $61,000 maiden special weight, finished third that day with Gutierrez up on the mount. Now you're getting Gutierrez back. I think this horse, like I said, has some run on turf, has a lot of things going on for the Doug O'Neill barn. And a lot of those moves in terms of first-time blinkers, things like that, are typically pretty winning moves for the O'Neill barn. So I like regulation days up top. And then for my value play, I will go with Bronco Nagurski, which is a little bit of a long shot, number 9, at 12-1 in the morning line. And this is a pure progeny play. This horse really didn't show a lot first time out, finished 7th by 12.5 lengths. And the workouts don't really give you a ton of confidence, but the horse is getting Lasix for the first time. But Grazen, this horse's sire, is actually producing an 18% winners for turf sprints. And his dam, Sunday Rules, was actually a turf sprint winner as well and posted a 93 buyers, only time she ever tried turf. So I think the switch to turf is going to be beneficial for Bronco Nagurski. And like I said, I just think there is something there to suggest that this horse maybe just broke bad first time out. There might be marked improvement. If you notice the running lines, he didn't give up at least, which is what I like to see. He kept running on, passed a few horses late, but I think the change to a different surface will help. But Josh, you like another horse at a pretty nice price as your top choice. You like Chrome River. So talk a little bit about that horse for us.
Yeah, so the 11, I think the horse is actually Chrome to Riches.
Oh, Chrome to Riches, you're right. Yes.
Horse.
Yeah, you're right.
So Chrome to Riches, the 11, with maiden races, especially with these unraced horses, you got to kind of dig through the tea leaves a little bit, right? And read the tea leaves, see, kind of dig a little deeper, see if you find something there. And in this case, if you look at the favorite, the 3-1 horse, Moon Ice, last time out actually ran pretty nice, ran a nice third with JJ Hernandez aboard on the turf. And although, there's nothing, Flavian Pratt, obviously one of the top jocks out west, generally, if you've ridden a horse, you usually get the chance to ride it again. And I know Flavian rode it the first time, but gave a good ride, was right there. All of a sudden, JJ Hernandez ends up on the 11. And, you start looking at it, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, why is JJ on this horse? And I'm like, it's California Chrome, it's 5% first-time turf sire, not exactly, something that jumps off the page. But then you look on the dam side, and on the dam side, you get the dam sire is 12% first-time turf, 15% overall on the turf, so a pretty decent turf influence there with unusual heat. 2 starters from out of the dam, 2 turf winners, both winners, and with a fairly successful DPI index on Brisnet, kind of just shows you average. This dam has produced twice the amount in winnings on average over any other dam. So decent dam. There's a lot of turf on the bottom. JJ sees fit to ride. Maybe this horse gets lost on the board a little bit because they see the California Chrome on there, and they're like, hey, this horse probably doesn't run on turf. So kind of a half pedigree, half connections play. Just trying to look for something to get around this 8 Moon Ice. Because when you dig a little deeper on Moon Ice, no turf winners out of 2 starters on this dam. And is getting Lasix for the first time, but John Sadler is only 10% when on that move. So it's not something that's necessarily helped him. And it's not necessarily a plus move. And Flavian Pratt and John Sadler 8% over the last 60 days. Yeah. So it just seems like a horse that I'm going to kind of want to fade. The other place I looked was your 6 regulation days. And similar, looking on the dam side, you got at least 3 turf winners there, 8 starters. And when you kind of look through this race, there weren't a lot of turf winners being thrown out of these dams. So
there were not.
I'm just kind of, like I said, that's what I'm looking for, especially with these very, very lightly raced horses, trying to see if you get a little bit of value off the pedigree play. Mario Gutierrez and Doug O'Neill are just on fire right now,
Yeah.
winning at like 30% the last 2 months. So, and I think they had a real nice turf winner. It might have been on Monday, either Monday or Sunday. So they're firing all cylinders right now. So I'll take the 6 as my second pick. I'll probably use both equally in any kind of horizontal sequence.
Got it. Yeah, I think this will be a fun race, and you're right about digging in. There wasn't a lot of turf influence, and so when you did find it, it was something that really did stick out to me. So really like that. And just to be clear, that is Josh's 11 Chrome for Riches. Apologies to my errors there. Autocorrect does all sorts of things when you start typing too fast. But let's move to race 3. This is another $76,000 maiden special weight, 6 furlongs on the dirt for 3-year-old fillies. And this is, again, a state restricted race. And this is the other single and for you, Josh. And this was a no-brainer top pick for me as well. But why don't you kick us off here in race 3? And what made you so confident in Bajan Bashert as the single?
Yeah, I mean, last time out, ran too good to lose. Ran a nice second there. 87 Brisnet figure, which is over the par for this level, and is much the best in this race. Kind of looking through the rest of the kind of the first time starters and even some of the other lightly raced horses, there just wasn't anything that jumped off the page to me. And if I'm going to take an 8-5 horse here, like I'm just not going to try and take any other horses. And opposite of what we were talking about John Sadler last time, this horse is getting first time Lasix, and Mark Glatt is 22% when giving first time Lasix. So, and is a plus move for him. Gets Flavian Pratt aboard, and that's another 30% connections there when Flavian rides for Mark Glatt. I mean, everything just points that this is going to be the single of the sequence. Hey, if you disagree with me and you want to get around this horse, you're going to get paid.
Yep,
I don't see the way forward around this horse. I'm just going to single, I'm just going to single, take my medicine, take what the DRF or the form gives me here. And just go with it.
I'm the same. I mean, I was actually somewhat surprised we got 8-5 in the morning line, because I don't think we're going to get anywhere near that by post time. And this horse was just clearly much the best. I mean, this was you mentioned the Brisnet numbers from a buyer speed figure standpoint, 66 first time out. The next closest horse that's run in this field ran a 30, and another horse ran a 1. That's where we're at with the other two horses that have run before. And then the other thing we do in these maiden special weights is we look at what I do a lot of times. I look at trainer intent. Which trainers really are known for getting horses cranked up first time out. There really just isn't a lot of that, quite frankly, in this field. That if you look, a lot of these trainers, they let the horses run into shape. They're really low winning percentage first time out. And so it was hard for me to get beyond the 5 as well. And I'll definitely single. If you're looking for a little bit of value, maybe you're looking to get around this 5. I do think the 4 is kind of an interesting first time play. I mentioned trainer intent. Sean McCarthy is actually one of the few trainers in this race that does have a really good strike rate first time out, winning at a 21% clip first time out, which is always really strong. Winning 35% overall in maiden special weights. This horse has had some nice works. You go back to that December 16th work, 1:02, and pretty solid work there. So this horse has been working consistently and pretty nice. This horse, Prospect Park, is the sire for Timely Lucky. Prospect Park hasn't been an overwhelming sire, but has produced at least a first out winner before. So the dam this is the first offspring for the dam. So not a lot of stats there, obviously, but like I said, it's 6-1. Maybe you want to include this in terms of an exacta. Maybe you are trying to get around Bajan Bashert. Maybe the 4 gives you a little something to hang your hat on. But like you, I'll be singling the 5 if I play any sort of horizontal sequence in this one. Well, let's move on to race number 4, which is a $72,000 allowance. And we're going down the hill, which is always one of my favorite things to see in North American racing. But we're going 6.5 furlongs, of course, for 4-year-olds and up. And this is one where we have a few, different opinions in terms of up top. but we do have some similarities in terms of horses that we like. So I kind of did end up going towards, and we both capped this before the morning lines came out. So I ended up going towards the horse that ended up being the morning line favorite, the number 3 Thorn House at 5-2. This horse is coming off a little bit of a layoff, but Dean Peterson, the trainer for Thorn House, is actually winning at a 50% clip off this length of a layoff with a $6.10 ROI. Now, granted, that's a very small N. It's only in 8 races, but still 4 for 8 with that sort of ROI. Clearly, he's a trainer capable of getting these horses ready off the layoff. He's also winning 31% of the sprint races that he's entering. And that's a little bit of a bigger N, too, with a very strong ROI. So a lot of things to like there. This horse tried the turf for the first time, last time out on the downhill at Santa Anita, finished second by a length and a half. This is a horse that's attracted a lot of money before and has run really well. 2 wins in 4 career efforts, never finished out of the exacta. Is a very consistent horse, nice early speed, but doesn't need the lead. Can win from sitting off the pace a little bit and stalking. So I like the 3 there as my up top play. I will say from a value standpoint, just to segue a little bit, the 5 4 Flag at 5-1 is a horse you really like. I also like this horse quite a bit. This horse is more of a miler, but is cutting back to that 6.5 furlongs. That's something, it's an angle I think we both like to play a lot of times. Horses that have run a little bit longer than 6.5 furlongs running on this downhill turf. But this is a horse that took a while to break its maiden, but there's a lot to like there, I think, with 4 Flag. So what made you go to that horse as your top pick for Mike McCarthy?
Yeah, I mean, I think you already mentioned the cutback, and that's definitely something. If I haven't seen you run down the hill, if you're cutting back from a mile, that's almost the next best thing, I think, for me.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of it, this horse has shown speed going a mile,
Mm-hmm.
so I kind of feel like this horse isn't on the rail. Which is usually where a horse I avoid unless the horse has just got absolute gun at speed and is going to get out there. So is just outside, on the outer half, and yeah, is going to be showing speed, and that's usually what I'm looking for. I'm looking for outside speed here, and Johnny V rides it downhill pretty well. And he rides for Mike McCarthy, at a decent clip. He's winning at 26% last 2 months. So on Brisnet, horse fits absolutely on figures. Pace wise, I think this horse fits. I didn't really have to. I was concerned with how long it took this horse to break its maiden, but I think sometimes with these types of horses, they have that light bulb moment, and they're like, "Oh, I'm a racehorse." Probably the most common or the most famous example of this is a horse named Switzerland, who disappeared for like 2 years and then decided to come back and win that was it the Golden Shaheen. So
a horse just recently, like Command Performance. I mean, that was a horse that was kind of a laughing stock for a while, and finally broke its maiden after running in all these graded stakes races, and then promptly won like 2 straight allowance races after that at Monmouth. So
I honestly thought that horse was still a maiden. I'm not even kidding you. I literally probably was talking about that horse last week, and I'm like, yeah, I think that horse is still a maiden. So shows how much I know.
But no, it showed, to your point though. You're absolutely right. Once a horse wins, things start rolling downhill with horses like that. So now another horse you liked, which is a horse I like quite a bit just in general, and I've liked in other races before, Moose Mitchell. Talk a little bit about that second pick for you.
Yeah, so this is kind of like all the reasons I like the 5, except just a little bit less. So horse is posted outside, has sprinting speed, so he's got speed. Has run down the hill, went basically 21 and or 22 flat, probably if you add the length that he was behind. So he's got that speed, and he's going to be posted out wide in the 10 hole, which I think is actually good going down the hill. So I think outside speed is always something I'm going to have on my tickets going down the hill. So the 10 I think is going to just show that outside speed. Once again, figures fit, even with the change from going from dirt to turf there a couple races
Hmm.
back. So yeah, and Mario Gutierrez has been riding very, very well.
Yeah, he has.
So I'll go with the hot hand here. And like I said, this is probably another one of those cases where I'm using these horses equally. I do have the 10 as my kind of second pick, but they'll both be used the same on any kind of horizontals.
Absolutely. So let's move to race 5. And this is a $50,000 maiden claimer, 6 furlongs on the dirt for 3-year-olds. Again, state restricted. And this is pretty amazing. This is a 7-horse field, and we managed to give out 4 completely different horses,
Yep.
which is the telltale sign that it is a maiden claiming race. And I will start off by just talking about who I like kind of up top. So stay in the game. Number 4 horse is 5-2 in the morning line. This horse has shown improvement really the last 5 times out from a buyer speed figure standpoint. You go back to that August 20th race at Del Mar, posted a 28 buyer speed figure, is probably the low point for this horse. Then goes 37, 48, 50, 55. This horse just has continued to improve, has dropped down in class to this maiden 50 category, but has shown improvement within that category. Ran third, ran fifth the first time it tried, third the next time he tried, and then second by less than a length the next time out. So there's some things again that this horse has shown that improvement. The trainer, Steve Knapp, is 25% first time with Lasix. He and Pereira are winning at a 25% clip as well. And so I just think there's some things to like here for stay in the game. In terms of value, I always do try to find value in these maiden claimers. I like the number 7 Charbonneau at 12-1 on the morning line. This is a horse. I talked to Gino Piccolo a lot on This Week in Stable Duel on Friday mornings, and one of the things we talk about is every line in this horse's running line makes sense. And if you look, this horse's first time out is on the synthetic at Golden Gate. Clearly doesn't like the synthetic. Also, it's against open company. Finishes 7th, well off. That race produced a couple next out winners, but then goes up to Losal, runs on the dirt, and finishes second by a length and a half, basically a length and 3/4, and posts a 56 buyers. Then goes and runs against much tougher competition at Del Mar. Goes from a maiden special weight 52 to a maiden special weight 82, and runs against 2 next out winners with the Big Bam and Kangaroo Court. Then comes back, then goes to a layoff for about 5 months, comes back from the layoff, finishes 10th, but is again more of a leg stretching effort, I would imagine there, and is now dropping down from maiden special weights down to this maiden claiming class. He's got the bug on him, so he's getting a little bit of a weight allowance. I just think there's some things here. Second off the bench now, off that about 7-month layoff. I think there's something to like here for Charbonneau at 12-1 in terms of value. But you see this race differently. So, Josh, tell me where I'm wrong with your 2 selections.
I don't know if necessarily wrong. So like I get the 7. Especially if you're trying to just hope and pray that first Los Alfig is correct.
Right.
I tend to just absolutely throw out anything from Los Al. So, you kind of do that and you don't really have much, but also
Right.
you got a synthetic and you got a Del Mar race. So like, what do you really have there?
Right.
But 12-1, I'm not going to talk anybody off of that. Honestly, my top pick here ended up being the first time starter here, the 2 Soul of Midnight. Straight Fire is currently winning at 18% first time out. It's a pretty limited sample size. I don't think there's many starters there, but I will say that Dean Peterson is 21% first time starters, 27% when debuting on maiden claiming, and 25% when just in maiden claiming. So I think Dean just kind of points his horse, like he's very aggressive with his horses. He's like, hey, I'm just going to try and win a maiden claimer with this one, and if it gets claimed away, it gets claimed away. I like him being aggressive here. The works look okay. Nothing really jumps off the page, but it looks like this horse is gonna, it has a nice long work tab. Has a couple of, fast works kind of going back, but for the most part, it seems like they've just kind of been stretching the horse out a little bit here. But I always like to see these horses get 5 furlong works before running 6.
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
I feel like that's usually a good sign there, and he's got a couple here in a row. So I'm going to go with this 2 here. Soul of Midnight is kind of my top pick. And it's like I said, it's kind of just a bells and whistles play. Just a
Yeah.
lot of plus stats there for that horse. Um, the 6. If you would have told me the 6 was 9 to 5, I mean, I guess it makes sense. There's not really a whole lot in here. I think the 6 looks a lot like your 4 stay in the
Yeah.
game here.
Hmm.
It has a couple starts, is kind of just, ran fairly evenly as far as speed figures, but I think of the horses in here, he's got the best form. He's got the best, kind of back races. Um, that's not saying much,
Hmm.
but it's not necessarily a impressive field here. So that's kind of why I looked at the first time starter. You know, if I were going to go, add another horse, I would probably add the other first time starter, the 5, Uncle
Mm.
Walt, and not for any reason other than the rest of these horses kind of stink.
Yeah.
I like I that's just kind of a elimination, right? Process of elimination. I'll take a shot with the other first time starter too. So yeah,
Yeah.
2, 6, and 5 is what I would use here.
I like it. Bottom line is spread in this one. I would encourage people, if they're playing that pick 5 sequence, they're alive. You don't want to take any chances in that last leg. And, there's an opportunity to go pretty skinny early on, to your point, and you can afford to maybe spread a little bit more on this last leg of the early pick 5. But let's move on to race 6, which is the Sunshine Million filly and mare turf sprint, 6.5. We're going down the hill again for 4-year-old and up filly and mares. And this is one where we both have the same value play, but we have a little bit of a disagreement with who we like up top. But we both like some jockeys who are really on fire. I like Mario Gutierrez and his ride. You like Frankie Dettori. I'm not going to talk you down from a Frankie Dettori on the downhill, but I'll just briefly talk about Eddie's New Dream at 7-2 on the morning line. This is a horse that's won twice over the downhill course in 3 tries, and including the last 2 times at basically this same level of a state restricted stakes race. Posted an 89 buyer speed figure and won by half a length over Legs Galore that 2 out ago. And then actually coming off of a layoff back in the spring, won a $101,000 state restricted stakes race going down the turf, actually beat a couple of next out winners there. So this horse has experience on this turf, will be forwardly placed, but doesn't need to be anywhere near doesn't need to be on the lead, usually like sitting second or third early on. And like I said, I think this horse can absolutely handle the distance, has run at a mile, has run at a mile and an eighth, has run at this 6.5 furlongs, has some versatility. 7-2, you're getting a little bit of value on the morning line. This horse does seem to really like Santa Anita's turf in particular, a little bit more than Del Mar's, I would say. So I think the fact this one is at Santa Anita bodes well for Eddie's New Dream. So I like this horse at 7-2. But you, Josh, like Frankie Dettori going down the hill, which is becoming a little bit of a cheat code. So why don't you talk about the 2 here?
I was hoping you were going to pronounce the name, and then I felt like you were going to, and then you just kind of hesitated a little bit, and then you're like, Frankie Dettori.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Do you want to take a crack at this one?
Le Duchiem Etoile? I don't know.
I think we're going to go La Dueme Etoile. I don't know.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Hey,
all right.
whatever.
The 2.
Yeah, I don't have Mark here to just absolutely make fun of, because he has hard time pronouncing English language words, let alone sometimes French ones. But he always gives it a try, and I love him for it. God bless him. Exactly. Yeah. Bless his heart. But yes, the 2, the Redham Racing's 2 here. Yeah, look at. If I get anywhere near to 6-1, you might be hearing, oh no, where is my? You might be hearing this, right? Because there's going to be a robbery. They're going to be reporting a robbery if this horse is anywhere near to 6-1. I loved this horse last time out, and I got all of 6.5-1. Is coming back at a higher level, right? It's a state bred stakes race here, but. Yeah, I mean, Frankie just knows how to ride down the hill. I mean, he just he already knows. He already knows. So this horse showed speed wire to wire, and it was just perfectly timed ride. He asked when he needed to, and he knew what he had. So I'm just going to go back to the well here with this 6. And I don't think that there's I mean, it's nothing super creative. A horse
Yeah.
ran this last time, ran very well,
Yep.
and I think that you know the 5 here, makes sense obviously, but yeah, I'm gonna try and get around, and I'm kind of hoping the horse gets bet a little bit based off of the fact that this horse ran a couple times in graded stakes. Now, obviously, the
Yeah.
Wilshire last year, yeah, last year, ran second, ran a nice second in open grade 2,
Yeah.
but that was also going a mile, and they
Yep.
just, I don't know, they're kind of just bouncing this horse around in distances. I,
They are.
I don't know if they know, what they want to do. I mean, it's another Redham Racing horse, which is, of course, funny here,
Yeah.
but I'll take the other one. I'll take the 2 here. The 7, which we both like here,
Yeah. Hmm.
Bella D. I just think makes a ton of sense. I mean, this horse, fresh off the layoff, won a nice state bred allowance race, and
Hmm.
then with Belmont Stakes winning jockey Jose Valdivia Jr. I always feel like, because since he went, I mean, he was a long time leading rider at
Yeah.
Arlington, then went out west when Arlington kind of was starting to its demise,
Hmm.
and I sometimes, like, people dunk on him in my inner group, because he's right now, he went from being a 30% rider to a
Sure.
9 to 10% rider, and I always have to remind him, it's
Yeah.
Belmont Stakes winning jockey
Yep.
Jose Valdivia Jr. Okay, I have to make sure that they understand their credentials, but yes, Mr. Valdivia was able to win off the layoff, came right back
Yep.
to a much much more pedestrian. We'll say we'll keep it nice and positive. A much more pedestrian turf jockey in Kyle Frey,
Yes.
and managed to win an open allowance,
Hmm.
and then kind of just tailed off there. But if you kind of look back at the running lines, I think this horse is okay firing fresh off a layoff. So
Yeah.
yeah, I like this horse at kind of a sneaky price here, 8-1 on the morning line. We might get more.
Yeah, I agree. And I think this horse actually has won the last 2 times he's come off the layoff, or she's come off the layoff. Actually won back in January of 21, coming off of a pretty extensive layoff then. That was actually when she broke her maiden. And then, as you just mentioned, last time off the layoff, wins that April 3rd allowance race off of, again, about a 4-month layoff. So this horse runs well off a layoff. And that's something that I think you really have to take your credit for, and does seem to like the downhill, does seem to like Santa Anita, does seem to like the distance. So definitely a lot to like. The only thing I'll say, the only concern I had about the 2, who I definitely gave a long look to, was that this horse just ran on opening day. And is kind of getting wheeled back on 2 weeks rest. And one of the things I like to do is go back through the running lines to see if this horse has ever run on this short of a rest before. The closest thing I could find is this horse ran on January 8th and then again on January 15th of this past year. And actually that second time did not run particularly well. So I just was a little concerned about kind of wheeling this horse back on a short rest. But everything else you said, though, makes all the sense in the world. And Frankie on the downhill, if you do get 6-1, that would be, yeah, we're sounding a lot of alarms. Yeah, exactly. Because that is going to be quite the price. So let's move on to race number 7. And this is the California Cup Derby, a mile and a 16th. I think this is the first time we're actually using 2 turns here at Santa Anita on Saturday, but a mile and a 16th on the dirt for 3-year-olds. And Josh, I'll let you kick this one off. You like the number 1 horse, Thirsty John, for Peter Miller and JJ. So talk a little bit about what drew you to that inside post on Thirsty John.
Yeah, I think the 1 and the 2 are the 2 kind of logical horses in this in this race, and this might be one of the times where I include the 2 and just take my medicine, because the two absolutely looks formidable.
Mm-hmm.
But in these, I was going to say 2-year-old race. It's technically a 3-year-old
It
race,
is.
but in these races with lightly raced horses, when you see a horse win by open lengths, and fairly impressively at Santa Anita, going 4.5, and I know it was a year ago. You kind of just take notice. You're like, okay, like what's up with this horse? Like
Mm-hmm.
this, and that figure looks great.
Yeah.
And you just got to assume that the horse is going to improve off that, and there's usually always improvement from 2 to 3, especially from their first start.
Hmm.
So I think the one the one leaves a lot to the imagination. Like this horse could be huge. I mean,
Yeah.
this horse could also, like, maybe that layoff told you all you needed to know. But yeah, I felt like the 2 was going to be a very short priced,
Yep.
and I was looking for an alternative, and I thought the 1, if the 1 can show the same speed that he did the first time out, it looks like he should get the lead, and it might just be an easy lead, and he might just be gone. So I'm gonna take the 1 here. Hope maybe I get a little wire to wire action, and I'll use it too as my as kind of a defensive use. I hate using that word, but if you're talking horizontally, this horse makes a ton of sense. That 7 furlong race, 3 back. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
wins this race, but depending on what the 1 does. So
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. The case for the 2, I think, is pretty straightforward. Has only been on the dirt twice, and the last time on the dirt, won a state restricted stakes race, 7 furlongs over the second choice, which is the 4 Give or Not a Taker. And so the 2 really doesn't have much else to prove over this field. Is going to get, is versatile enough to kind of be right on, stalking, can be sit a little mid pack, can sit a little further back. So horse has largely been running on synthetic up at Golden Gate, but has been running well up there as also, and beating a lot of next out winners as well. So you like to see that. Um, so yeah, the 2 makes a lot of sense. I will say from a value standpoint, I went with the 6 Crypto Ride at 5-1. This is a horse that actually finished second to Give or Not a Taker last time out. I know you mentioned throwing out the Los Al form. This horse has nothing but Los Al form, with the exception of 1 race on the turf at Santa Anita. So you can kind of toss that as well. But one of the things I like here is at least you've seen a solid progression from this horse every single time out. Debuted in a state restricted maiden claiming 50, finished third that day, then comes back, runs in that turf race, doesn't run well there at all, comes back in another state restricted 50, breaks its maiden, then steps up to $100,000 state restricted stakes race and finishes second by a head, and really showed, I think, some nice early speed. Can certainly be, sitting off the pace a little bit. So if there is a little bit of a pace tool between, let's say, the 1 and the 7, who would seem to be the other early speed, the 6 might benefit from that a little bit and be able to get home at a little bit of a price. But I do think the 2 makes a lot of sense here. But this is another one which, pace makes the race, and we'll have to see how this one ultimately plays out. Let's head to race number 8, which is the California Cup Oaks, which is a mile on the turf for 3-year-olds, fillies, and mares. Or I guess just 3-year-old fillies if it's just the 3-year-olds. And again, a state restricted stakes race. This is one where I really liked your your top pick, and I was debating. I had 3 horses picked in this race. Actually, I had the 1, the 7, and the 8 as kind of the 3 horses that I was targeted in on. And you had the 1 and the 8, and I thought, well, something, I should give some love to the 7 because of that. So I ultimately wanted to highlight another horse that we didn't get a chance to talk about, maybe otherwise. But I'll just talk a little bit about the 8, Sell the Dream, 2-1. This is the morning line favorite. This horse is versatile, obviously being able to run on both turf and dirt. You could say this horse doesn't necessarily win a lot, but this horse also, broke its maiden, then went to the dirt, then went back to the turf and lost to Comanche Country 2 straight races, including one of those at a grade 3, then goes back to the dirt and loses to a couple of other horses in this race, then pops back on the turf in a grade 3 and finishes third. So it's interesting. I think this horse is finally in the right place, like a state restricted stakes race on the turf. And I think that's where this horse is going to run best. But, we'll see. If Comanche Country was in this race, I would absolutely fade this horse because that seems to be this horse's kryptonite. But the 8, like I said, is the morning line. But from a value standpoint, I do really like this 7. This is a horse I actually liked last time out and just didn't fire in the Jimmy Durante. But this is a horse that is 2 for 4 at the distance, 3 for 4 at the distance, 2 for 4 overall lifetime, 2 for 3 winning on the turf. Has a great rider in terms of JJ, picks that horse up, had some trouble last time out, but like I said, picks up a new rider, won at a similar race 2 out ago. If you look at race 2 back on October 29th, that was basically another, it wasn't even a state restricted. That was just a open company, low level listed stakes race, $75,000 stakes race at Golden Gate on the turf. Wins that one coming off of a layoff by 6 lengths. Wins it easily. And that's a race that produced some next out winners. So I think at 8-1, Park It, or Quickly Park It, I should say, has a little bit to like there. McCarthy and Hernandez team up to win at a 38% clip. So that's a good combo, obviously. But I do really like this one. So I want to turn things over to you, Josh. Talk to me a little bit about Phil D'Amato, who seems to be the Chad Brown of the West Coast and just winning everything on the turf.
Oh, man. When I look at races, I obviously I try to gravitate and figure out who's the favorite, who's going to be the favorite. And the first thing that pops in my mind is, how do I beat this favorite, right?
Yeah.
So obviously the eight looks good, right? If you look, the horses run second in some nice stakes races, ran third in the Jimmy Durante last out. The thing I always have a hard time sometimes with these types of horses, because I always feel like figure makers, and God bless them, I could never make a figure. I rely on them.
You and me both.
But I feel like sometimes figure makers are like, well, this was a grade 3. Or this was a grade 2,
right?
And maybe they juice it a little bit, right? They don't have to juice it a lot, but they juice it a little bit, especially for losers. And I'm not talking about loser horses like horses that 0 for 15, but like you ran third, and it's like you ran 10th in a grade 3. Congratulations, we're giving you an 85 buyer.
Well, to your point, we just saw that actually last week with the Harlan's Holiday, where they said simplification, earned a career best 103 buyer speed figure in the grade 3 Harlan Holiday. And I'm like, get the hell out of here. That was not a 103 effort, in my opinion. So I totally hear you on that argument.
So I, especially with these stakes horses, especially young stakes horses that all of a sudden are showing up in softer spots that, haven't won. But I'm always just a little weary of the figures, right? You have to respect the class a little bit, even though class doesn't matter. But so the 8's kind of like is setting off like red flags for me, setting off alarms, right? Yeah. Bells are ringing, and I'm just like, all right, let's keep looking. Let's keep looking. I want to give a shout out to probably what would be my third pick in this race, and actually, fairness, probably should be my second pick from a value perspective. The 4 Charlie, I know hasn't really run on the turf much, but it is out of an Uncle Mo or by an Uncle Mo sire, Motown, and gets Frankie Dettori aboard. And you know what? Honestly, that's probably good enough to use if I'm going to use multiple horses. But the last Brisnet figure, fits in perfectly in this race. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take a shot with this one, Carol Lombard. Ramon Vasquez riding for Phil D'Amato. It's just got a nice win last time out, and breaking its maiden. And Phil D'Amato, when he wins his last race, is 18%. Non-graded stakes, 18%. I mean, this is just, once again, bells and whistles just popping all over the place. Ramon and Phil D'Amato are hitting at a 29% clip, which I don't know if Brisnet just loves 29%, but I swear every single time I've talked about trainers and jockeys, it's been 29%. I don't know. But I don't know. Carol Lombard looks pretty good here. Has a type of run style I like out west. Honestly, I feel like out east, you can win. You usually can win from anywhere, right? Deep closer, up front if everyone falls asleep like they normally do. But I really do feel that it's a huge advantage out west to be aggressively ridden and be close. You don't necessarily. It doesn't have to necessarily need the lead, but I'll tell you, out west is the only time I ever see that runaway winner get there. It's the only time I ever see that runaway horse get there. There's just something about the, I don't know if it's the grass out west, I don't know if it's the riding style of the horses, but I want horses that are going to be forwardly placed, and I think Carol Lombard, hasn't gotten the lead, but hasn't been, the last time out was 2 lengths from the lead, and just timed it perfectly. So I'm hoping for the same kind of ride there from Ramon Vasquez. Obviously the 8 makes a ton of sense. I'm not gonna chastise anybody for using the 8. It feels kind of trappy. This
Yeah,
feels
it
kind of
does.
like it feels a little bit like it's going to be an underlay. This horse will probably go off at 6, 7, 8 to 5. When
Hmm.
maybe in this field should be closer to 5 to 2. Um,
Yeah.
so I don't know. I had it as my second pick. I think it might be kind of a soft fade in this spot. I think I'm a little bit more interested in the 4 Charlie here as kind of a secondary pick.
Yeah, no, definitely some value I think to be found in this race for sure. I mean, while the 8 is my top choice, I do think, as I mentioned, I like the 1 a lot. I like the 7 a lot. I do like Charlie a lot as well. So there's some prices here to attack in this particular race. Let's move to race 9, which is a $20,000 optional claimer going 1 mile on the dirt for 4-year-olds and up. And this is one we have the same top pick, which is the number 6 Big Talker. So Josh, kick us off here in our penultimate race. Why do you like the number 6 Big Talker?
I mean, the number 6 Big Talker is a 5-year-old, but has just gotten better and
Yeah.
better and better.
Hmm.
And it seems like, as soon as they took him off the turf, I mean, he was running well on the turf. He won some nice races on the turf, but he just ran 3 really nice races, I think, since switching over to the dirt. A little concerned about the last one since it was at Los Al, but if you go back, if you go 3 back, I mean,
Yeah,
he backs that up with a nice race at Santa Anita.
absolutely.
Has
Yeah.
got some nice races over the turf, and weirdly, these horses that run well on the turf seem to do well at Los Al. I don't know if there's
Mhm.
something weird about it, but more importantly, that last Briz fig just jumps off the page.
Yeah.
I didn't know what kind of price this horse would be, but I was definitely interested in Ryan Cortolo. He's off to a pretty decent start. He's 1 for 5 so far on the meet. So we'll see if he can continue that. Get another win here.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, definitely like a lot about this horse. This is a horse that has, as you mentioned, just kind of shifted to the dirt the last 3 times out after being claimed off of from the Yak Teen Barn, and yeah, Croatolos just took this horse on the dirt, put blinkers on, and this horse has really responded. And like you said, had a dud at Del Mar, but other than that, nice effort at Santa Anita, nice effort at Los Al, and I think replicating any one of those 2 efforts would absolutely be enough to put this horse in the winner's circle. So now you like the number 1 horse. I know Cash Flow. That was a horse that I was looking at as well, but this is a 4-1 horse for Peter Miller and Flavian. Talk a little bit about that horse.
We're gonna go ahead and say 3 cherry special here. We got the
Oh
E, we got the
boy.
8. It's a 3 cherry horse. Yeah, I think this is gonna be your inside drawn speed.
Hmm.
And you go back, and this horse has run very, very well here at Santa Anita. I do think that the three California tracks. Well, we're not including Golden Gate because it's a synthetic surface, but
Right.
the 3 California tracks play. I feel like you get a lot of horse for course out west.
You do. I
And
completely
so
agree.
I like to see if a horse is coming at Santa Anita, if it's run well at Santa Anita. Horses 2-0-1 in 4 starts. So the horse seems to like Santa Anita. So it's kind of horse
Mhm.
for course angle, inside drawn speed, which, like I said, speed is never bad.
Yep.
Yeah. So I kind of went with that, and I didn't necessarily see a ton of like, hey, I need the lead type horses in this race.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know. He might just get out there and get loose. I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I
Yeah.
was really interested in this one, kind of on the pace play and a horse for course angle.
Yeah, we should mention the morning line favorite in this race is actually the 8, Leia's Candy at 9 to 5. I don't think this horse wants any part of 2 turns. This horse actually started to decline in terms of speed figures last time out, which was the first time he tried a mile. So I ultimately, for like kind of a value-ish pick in a second play, I went with the number 7, Holiday Arousal. This is a horse that's just extremely consistent in speed figures the last 3 times out. 2 of those have been at Del Mar, 1 of those at Santa Anita. Admittedly, this is a horse that was running in kind of an open claiming circuit, but stepped up into this kind of state, if you want to call it stepping up, but ran in one of these state level optional or state restricted optional claimers last time and finished second, and actually just beat out I Know Cash Flow actually by about 2 lengths in that particular race. Now that was at 6 furlongs, but this is a horse that is 3 for 4 winning at a mile. And I just think there's, something to be said about that. This horse, can do this distance. And I just think this is a horse that actually was beaten by Resilient, which is a horse I mentioned as I liking as a long shot in race one. So I think it's been keeping good company in some of these races. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention this horse is obviously jockeyed by Kent DeSormo, who I talked a little bit about on the Win Play show, obviously coming back from a long time away from the sport because of his alcohol abuse and addiction issues. And so he actually won a couple of races at Turfway Park over the last weekend. And so, obviously putting horse racing aside, wishing the best for Kent to get his life kind of back on the right track. And but do like this holiday arousal a little bit in race 9. Well, let's close it out with race 10, the Turf Classic, 1.125 on the turf for 4-year-olds and up. And we always try to give you a big price in the bailout race. That's just me. I always like to try to find a big price in the bailout, because even if I suck ass all day, I can make it all back in one race in the bailout. And then usually on my worst days, that's exactly what happens. Just ropes you back in for the next day. You can go 1 for 10, but that 10th race is the one that gets you. But ultimately, I went with two moderately priced and a pretty big priced horse. So my top choice was Kings River Knight. And this is a horse that fits a profile we've talked about a little bit before, of an ascending horse that just seems to keep getting better. And I don't think has run his best race yet. And this is a horse that is 3 for 3 on the turf, but ran the last 2 times at Golden Gate on the synthetic. In allowance races. Now we're stepping up into a stakes, a state restricted stakes race. So we're absolutely stepping up in class. But this is a horse that has shown the ability. This horse has a fair amount of versatility in terms of it can sit, right off the pace. It can be on the lead. Actually won its maiden wiring the field, then came back, won next time out, sitting 6th in that race, then won the next time out, sitting 3rd most of that race. So has some versatility there, which I like. Like I said, the speed figures are ascending, would absolutely need to take another step. The good works, though, up at Golden Gate, that December 4th work in particular, minute flat, then on Christmas Eve, nice 48 2 4 furlong work. So there's a lot to like there. I think this horse is going to like the extra half furlong, going 1.125 miles for the first time. But this is a horse that's never finished out of the exacta, 6-1. I'm going to use King River Knight up top. But I will let you talk about your top pick, Aligato, for Mark Clapp, because we both have the same value play in this one.
Yeah, so Aligato, if you look through his PPs and you find this race from last year, won this race very convincingly by a length and 3/4, is coming back to the same distance. And if I kind of excuse the last 2 races because, I mean, they tried going down the hill, didn't really work. Chosen Vron won that race, and I don't know, the 1.125 cutting back to the 6.5 furlongs, I think might be too big of a cutback. They went ahead and they went into open company and finished 4th there. But I think on the stretch out, going back to 1.125 I think is going to be good for this horse. I think we'll probably see a similar performance as we did last time. And I mean, if you just look at the figures, I mean, it was the best race that the horse has probably ran in his entire career. So it's not super creative, but when you look through this race, and this happens a lot, I think, in these state bred races, you get a lot of horses switching surfaces. You get a lot of horses trying the distance for the first time. So I'm gonna take a shot at a horse that I know is proven at the distance, proven at the track.
Yep.
I'm gonna go ahead. And I thought Aligato was gonna be the favorite, but it looks like Carmelita's Man, the 8, is going to be the favorite here. So, hey, maybe the horse floats up a little bit. I don't know. Maybe we get a little
never know.
But,
pretty good.
I
Well,
love the one here.
Speaking of getting your value, the aptly named Bang for Your Buck is the horse we both like as the value play. Josh, what made you like the number 6? Because I have my reasons, but I'm interested to hear what attracted you to this horse at 15-1 in the morning line as a play.
This is one of the few horses in here I can guarantee, or I can safely say, is a turf horse.
You're absolutely right about that. Yeah.
And honestly, it's funny. Like, I'm joking and saying it ridiculous like that, but hey, sometimes it's all it is, right?
Yeah.
a slight tangent. If you ever play Texas Racing, or if Texas Racing ever comes back, let me say that. Um, honestly, I've done very well in
Yep.
Texas Racing. They run on the turf all the time.
Yep.
Just find the turf horse.
Right.
It doesn't even matter. It could be a bad turf horse. Just find the horse that wants to run on the grass, because oftentimes you got owners or trainers just trying something,
Yep.
right? And then all of a sudden you see a Caraconti out there, and you're like, what the heck is this horse doing at 25-1? Like, so this is kind of this is a lesser case than that. I mean, there is some proven turf form, but I mean, honestly, you go back to the end or the end of the summer.
Yeah.
Those races, they fit perfectly fine in here.
Absolutely.
I thought that this horse looks super competitive. Abel Cedillo is still, is 0 for 6. It looks like to start. Not necessarily a great turf jock, but I kind of think that might be built into the price here, especially these unknown connections. I mean, I think if this was like Umberto Rispoli riding for, John Sadler, all of a sudden this horse is, 5-1, not 15.
Absolutely right.
So, I think the back form looks great. I think there shouldn't be a problem getting the distance with this horse. And there's just so many more questions about so many other horses that this horse is just kind of this horse is proven compared to a lot of these other horses.
Absolutely. No, I would draw people's attention to the August 6th race at Del Mar, which was essentially this type of race, state restricted stakes race, ran second by a head to the morning line favorite here, Carmelita's Man. And so now you're giving me, and by the way, beat the Chosen Vron in that race, who we talked about as the 4-5 morning line favorite in race 1. So this is a horse that is absolutely those races in August 6th, December 10th, and October 8th. Those 3 races run at 1 1/16, 1 mile, and 1 1/8. Those 3 races all fit in this race, absolutely, and would absolutely make this horse a serious contender. So absolutely like bang for your buck here as a value play, 15-1, as a really big price to close out the card. Well, that is going to do it for the card. Josh, thank you again so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. Let everybody know where they can find you on Twitter, what all you have going on between On the Wrong Lead, all the stuff you're doing with Andrew, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so you can find me at Cherry Drank on Twitter. We do have a website, onthewronglead.com. We have to do better about posting stuff. I was trying, but I fell off the wagon. I got to get back on there. But we have our we usually have a link to our YouTube stuff, our podcast. We have shirts and all that kind of nonsense on there. At wrong_lead is our Twitter handle. YouTube.com/onthewronglead. We stream Thursday nights. I think there's also a Trusted Profits stream at that time, or around the same time. I think they might start a little bit later.
Yeah.
But we generally do a mix of handicapping and live wagering. So we, as the Derby prep season starts, we'll be more into the handicapping side. Right now, we're doing a contest with trying to turn $50 into $1,000. And
nice.
We're embroiled in a battle at Delta Downs and Turfway Park there. But yeah, and then Andrew Champagne and myself, we do Drinking Champagne. That generally comes out Wednesday or Thursday morning, depending on our schedules. And once again, we do a mix of handicapping and just talking about horses. This last time we talked about Andrew's Eclipse Award ballot, and unfortunately, it was pretty square. So I couldn't. There wasn't too much to make fun of. Yeah. But we have a good time. We try to make it fun. We try to not take ourselves too seriously. But yeah.
Well, very good. Well, like I said, I encourage people to check out everything Josh has going on there, and all the guys on the Wrong Lead, Caleb and Mark and Andrew as well with Drinking Champagne. Always great stuff. Always really entertaining. I think always super approachable for people who are just getting into the sport. So, Josh, thank you again. Best of luck. The viewers out there, remember, we are wishing you a great and prosperous day at the track and reminding you that it's now post time.